Washington's clear-thinking headquarters. The Morning Majority, 5 to 9 on 630 WMAL.
8:07 on WMAL. Morning Majority, Brian Neiman, along with Michael Steele, former head of the RNC.
Hey, good to be here.
Lieutenant Governor of Maryland. Janet Napolitano joins us now, head of Homeland Security, of course. Madam Secretary, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So we're scrapping the color-coded terror alert system, so I guess we no longer have to worry about yellow, orange, and red. So what is the new and improved system?
The new system is called the National Terrorism Advisory System. It's designed to actually give people information which the color codes did not. So if there is a specific or credible threat, it will tell people as much information about the threat as we can. It will tell them what they need to do to prepare in terms of protecting themselves, their families. It will tell them what they can do to help us. So let's say we're looking for particular types of vehicles, and it will tell them where they can get additional information.
So we have two levels then, elevated and imminent. Is that the way it works?
It would be elevated and imminent based on the fact that, we're always at an elevated level. And so, you will only see these alerts when there's something above that level, and that will be based on the conclusions of interagency deliberations about intel that's coming in.
So then will we only hear from Homeland Security when there's an imminent threat, or will it still be elevated and you'll want more information?
Well, the baseline is always elevated, but you will hear from Homeland Security when there's something over and above that.
Okay. I'm curious, what is your definition of terror? We talk about the terror alert system, but what is terrorism in your mind? Can you define that?
Well, terrorism is defined a variety of ways, but it's usually something that has a sort of a systemic or political motivation. So you look at the motivation. You look at the kind of impact that is the act is designed to have, and you look at kind of the surrounding context to determine whether something is terrorist rather than criminal.
Interesting. Good morning, Madam Secretary. Michael Steele here. It's good to speak with you. My question, I think, kind of goes to where folks generally are. I mean, as chairman, I spend a lot of time in airports, and Lord knows you get more than one pat down. You just kind of get a little bit, okay, I don't know if I want to go through this again. But, you recently responded to the pat down of a 6-year-old child, and I know that your office and staff were especially concerned about those and the protocols that are in place right now through TSA. But when you go to the airport and you see that type of an incident, or you also see, someone in a wheelchair, a senior citizen in a wheelchair, having to be, pat down and go through that process, are you guys looking at a way in which we can sort of, see a 6-year-old and an elderly person or someone who's handicapped in a wheelchair type of a situation and go, okay, maybe we approach this a little bit differently, or what's your thinking there, or how do you see this thing evolving now that you're taking the necessary steps to evolve the warning system? How about that pat-down system?
Well, a couple of things, Michael. We're always looking at ways that we can better provide security in the airports without unnecessarily intruding on people's privacy. That's number one. But we are dealing with an ongoing set of threats. So recognize that anytime we say, for example, kids under 12, we're not going to pat down, the terrorists will go and recruit kids under 12. And we've seen that time and time again in the intel community. And so we're dealing with an environment where things are very sensitive, and we really want to make sure that people are safe. So how are we going to improve the system? We're going to look at our protocols, our training, make sure that they're as good as they can be. We're going to expand trusted traveler programs so that more people can go through an expedited line because their identity will already have been verified. And we're constantly working with laboratories around the country to improve the actual technology. It would be great if someday you could just go there and not have to get rid of your shoes and your laptop and everything else. And so we have research ongoing to achieve that, but it takes time.
But I think what drives people nuts, though, is that they see the 6-year-old and she's with her family, and to what your definition of terrorism is, and I agree with it. Is okay? Do we really think that this girl is involved in some kind of terrorist plot? Do we really have to go through all of that in this particular interest? Can't we just weed them out right away?
All I'll say on that one, because I really this is about talking about the National Terrorism Advisory System, not what happened at a particular incident. But the TSA officer there did exactly as she had been instructed to do. She was extraordinarily polite, explained to the parents what was going on, and I think the video demonstrates that. However, as I said before, we are always looking at better ways to handle any kind of situation. The airport realizing the kinds of threats and the multiplicity of the threats that we have, particularly in the aviation.
Have you looked closely at the Israeli system? Because when I go through the airport in Israel, I have a very secure feeling because the way they approach it, and I don't have to take my shoes off to go through security.
Yeah, but in Israel they have one airport with 50,000 passengers a day, and they do a lot more by way of interviewing each passenger, standing in line. They do much more by way of some other things that we can't do in the United States. And our scalability issues are very different than Israel's. We've got, hundreds of airports. We process 1.5 to 2 million passengers per day. So, yes, we have looked. If there are things that are applicable here, either from Israel or other countries, those are things we're absolutely willing to consider. Most countries are looking at us and seeing how we're handling aviation security because we have the largest aviation system in the world.
All right, I know you have to run. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it, as always.
Thank you.
Good to talk to you.
Janet Napolitano, Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security here on WMAL. I just still think that, people look at that and say, all right, if we're worried about terrorism, and quite frankly, what are we worried about? We're worried about jihadis blowing up airplanes and not, a family from Kentucky or, wherever. Do we really need to go through the system? I mean, yes, terrorists will definitely use babies to blow up planes. They would use 6-year-olds to blow up planes. But do we have to go through that process with families that we just know that?
Well, but therein lies the problem, because a lot of people come to realize that the guys that got on that plane lived in Laurel for up to 2 years before they got on that plane, and they integrated themselves fully into the community. So those precautions have to be taken, and I think that's the conundrum we find ourselves